Today's show is all about rice, Italian rice, risotto, right from the Po River Valley. But we're cooking it instead in the Napa Valley in a great restaurant with a great chef friend of mine, Kelly McDonald. He's not the chef of your average restaurant, he's the executive chef of the Napa Valley Wine Train. So come join us for an amazing ride.
Michael Chiarello's Napa is funded by Sultan, innovative products for a healthy today and tomorrow, featuring a full line of Breadman machines to make artisan breads for use in your own home. Sultan, we'll bring out the baker in you.
By Sunkist, fresh citrus taste, cooking with Sunkist throughout the day. Sunkist, our promise, your inspiration.
By All-Clad Metal Crafters. All-Clad is bonded construction. All-Clad is functional design. All-Clad is professional equipment. All-Clad is a state of mind.
As an Italian, I have this passion for trains. Actually, all Italians love trains. And I was trying to figure it out one day, and I asked my uncle, why do Italians love trains? He says, well, you know, in the old country, trains are the only thing you can really trust. It's the only thing that works in Italy for sure. You go to the train at 4:32, you get on the train at 4:32. But when I bought the property where I built my home, the train went by. It was a big deal in the Napa Valley with the whole train thing, and everybody says no trains. And I bought it, and people said, oh, why would you buy the property there? The train goes through. And I said, exactly. I love to know at 8 o'clock the train comes. It's like the church chime in a cathedral. It comes and goes, the ebb and flow of life. There's something about train travel that's fantastic. It kind of goes back to the time where you would actually sit on the train and relax and read a book and have a conversation, have a campari, a little colazione, something, a romantic interlude. Trains were fantastic. They were very inclusive. I love things like that. Risotto is one of those dishes. It's that same thing, it's very inclusive. It's something that you do. Today we're going to make some risotto. And not just risotto like risotto Milanese or a recipe. I'm going to show you how to turn the idea of risotto into a festa, into a really wonderful party. And I love things like this that are inclusive. You hear me talk about that all the time, that if I just hand you a recipe, that's exclusive. That's just kind of one from me to you. And inclusive things where everybody gets a chance to participate in the evening. But first, before we do that, we have to make good risotto. Now, when you make risotto, you need a particular rice, okay? So, my friend Tio Bene, you know, Uncle Ben, he's fine as a rice for an Insalata di Riso, for a rice salad, but Tio Bene, she's no good for risotto. Why? Because he has no starch in them, okay? If you see this is arborio rice. It has a very nice starch content, which we want. There's a couple of things when you're making risotto, and it's a technique. That it actually, you don't put all the liquid in at once. You're going to build this risotto. When I say build, we're going to build these layers of flavor. So we have a little extra virgin olive oil in my pot, some very finely minced yellow onion. Now, this is where most people make a mistake. Mistake number one with the risotto is they don't sweat their sofrito enough. They don't give it enough time to sweat properly. If you sauteed it really hot, onions and garlic begin to get caramelized, which I don't like in risotto at all because it begins to take over the delicate nature of the rice, okay? So, once these things begin to saute, I'm going to add a pinch of salt. What the salt does is it pulls the moisture out. Because I don't want caramelization, I want these to sweat in here. So now I'm going to turn it down, and I'm going to give it about 4 or 5 minutes right here. Very important to wait and saute these really, really low until they're perfectly translucent. All right, this is perfect. Big part of the process here is you saute the rice. You saute the rice in the oil. Now look at the color of the rice now, and you'll see as it begins to get hot, it will begin to, what I say, pearl up. It takes on a wonderful pearl character. Now the next step is a wine. I have some Sauvignon Blanc. Fumé Blanc, Sauvignon Blanc, they're the same variety, just two different ways to say it. Now I use wine like an ingredient. I don't do this little bit of wine. I put wine in, and you're gonna cook it as the first flavor in the risotto. Now, what risotto is, by definition, is multiple additions of liquid. You don't add all the liquid at once. You go through this process. You add the wine, you continue to cook it down until it gets absorbed into the rice, and then you begin to add your broth. Now, over the years, I began to make risotto taking the technique of multiple additions of broth into something that's a little bit starchy and turned it into just a whole palette of different risotto. I use pasta as the rice, so I'll start with a little arancini di pepe, just like this, same process. Do potatoes, very, very immense, very small diced Idaho potatoes. They're fantastic as well. Butternut squash, different mixtures of things. I've even taken, here's the big trick for me. Every once in a while I want to do a risotto from, say, like a red wahani, one of the great aromatic varieties of rice that are very flavorful. But the problem is that, just like tio benes, they have no starchiness, they have no creaminess. So what I'll do is take some arborio rice and put it in a blender or a spice mill and grind it up into a flour. So I'll start making my risotto same way with one of these aromatic rice or a black japonica. A black rice is spectacular. In the last 5 minutes of cooking, put in a couple tablespoons of the arborio rice flour, and it creamies up everything. So now you know all my tricks, just about all my tricks. I'm holding a couple in my back pocket for later. Okay, so I season this. Now, another big mistake people make is they don't season their risotto on time. They try to season it at the end. Why is that a problem? Because the rice takes the broth inside. And if I season it at the end, when the rice is done absorbing any broth, then the rice is going to be flat and the broth is going to be salty. Big problem. And we're going to continue to stir this rice and add more broth until it's cooked right to the tooth for me. Now look at this. You see what I'm talking about? See the creaminess right there? Right on the spoon. That's what risotto is. When you begin to taste that, it's incredible. Now if you're going to serve these for a buffet or family style, leave it a little bit wet. The rice is going to continue to cook. Sometimes we put it on the table, and oh, okay, she's going to stop cooking. She doesn't. She continues to go. So I like to leave it a little bit soupy because that's going to absorb the rest of the broth. Now, black pepper at the end. I don't pepper the beginning because it looks like, I don't know, ants. It gets a little graggio. It gets a little gray. A little butter in here. And if you don't want to put butter, don't put butter. But I love to monter au beurre, to finish with whole butter a risotto. It adds a layer of flavor and creaminess and richness. Parmigiano. Look at that. Look at that. So what we've done is we've set up a little buffet where I have a white risotto, a plain Parmigiano risotto here, perfectly well seasoned, incredible. You could eat it by yourself, so everybody that likes something a little bit more plain, no problem. We've roasted some mushrooms, olive oil and butter, kind of 50-50, caramelize the mushrooms, a single layer so they don't sweat and boil. They're almost like chips. When they get deep brown, we add some garlic. When it gets light brown, we add some fresh thyme and parsley. You can stir those in. Asparagus, cooked like your grandmother cooked them, really soft. A little bit of that asparagus water in a blender. Touch of vitamin C to keep it green. Incredible puree. Lemon zest is fantastic in rice. Asparagus, lemon. I have a 25-year-old balsamico, a couple drops of this on top. So the idea of participating in your food, having something that's inclusive like this, I guarantee you, you throw a little risotto party like this and people start over here, they have a glass of wine at the end, they're never ever going to forget it. Taking the same rice that you would make risotto from and turning it into a rice pudding is a wonderful way to take a dish that everybody understands and present it in a way that nobody would imagine. So to do a risotto rice pudding is really, really quite simple. Now, what starts a rice pudding we all know is milk. Now we add some sugar. We're gonna add a vanilla bean. I split them first because I like to, when I take them out, scrape the seeds and put the seeds back in. I think they look nice. Some lemon zest. So, lemon zest goes in. We're gonna bring this up to a simmer like it is now, and we're gonna add our rice. Just a little pinch of salt in here. Like all my desserts, I like some salt to come up underneath all of these other flavors and really bring them home. Now the rice is just beginning to get tender. What we're gonna do is pull out our vanilla bean. Now here's my little trick. You pull these guys out, you take the back of a knife, and you see that? So we're gonna get all that in. We'll take some lemon juice and 3 egg yolks and beat them up together. So we're gonna take a little bit of this rice pudding. We're gonna put a cup in. We're gonna bring the temperatures a little closer together. And then we're gonna fold this back into the rest of the pot. This stirs in. We're going to continue to cook this until the egg yolk just begins to thicken. And if you're a traditional rice pudding eater like I am, a handful of raisins are perfect for that. So depending on the time of the year, you know, if it's the dead of winter and there's no great fresh fruit, raisins are always around. See the texture of that? Just perfect. Now we're going to go ahead and layer this together. Now, you can serve this rice pudding any way that you'd like. Right? You could take a little zabaione of, say, grappa, a little grappa zabaione, put it on the bottom and layer these in. There's a million things that you can do. I like to serve them with a little bit of fruit so you have something contrasted. I like to sweeten my fruit first. Get some sugar. Again, a little bit of lemon juice. Pinch of salt. And go ahead and mix these guys together. Okay, so we're going to take, I'm going to put a few berries in first. Take a spoon of the rice pudding mixture. I like equal parts fruit to rice with things like this. You know, some people would argue that you want to eat more rice, but I like the condiments of things that I'm putting on in the ingredient, like the rice, to be about 50-50. So we'll layer up a couple of these guys. Got some plums and some nectarines. You have to excuse my fingers, but I want to kind of get in there with it. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if somebody invited me over for dinner, and for dessert, instead of an ooey gooey, icky, sticky chocolate dessert, I got an arboreal rice pudding with macerated fresh summer fruits like that, I would be blown away. Welcome aboard for a visit on the Napa Valley Wine Train. Actually, the trains in the valley have been running since 1864 when Sam Brannan built them to do much of the same thing, to bring people up to his hot springs in Calistoga. Southern Pacific took it over and ran it for a bunch of years until 1987. And you know what? As good Italians, we couldn't do without a train in the Napa Valley, so the Di Domenicos and some other investors took it over and turned it into the wine train and made it into a wonderful experience like it is today. Now, there was a lot of controversy when the wine train started coming back and forth and started serving food, like people thought it was a rolling restaurant and what a problem. Well, you know what? We have plenty of traffic over here, and anything that people can sit on and enjoy themselves and relax and see and feel and taste, the Napa Valley is okay for me. As an Italian, we fall in love with trains. The whole idea of going from village to village, the wine train actually goes right by my house, and I love it. I can set my watch by it. It's the one thing of the day that I can absolutely count on. They actually have 3 separate restaurants on the wine train, starting with the Vista Dome that sits above the Napa Valley and on top of the entire rail, the Orient Express car, and right here in the Silverado Grill, where you can get anything from a banana leaf wrapped fish to some barbecue, one of my very favorites. All right, so come on. I mean, cooking in a train has got to be a lot different than a restaurant, huh?
Oh yeah, very much so. Because it leaves, and I mean, you better have your game on, and everything that you need for that day, because your restaurant is leaving the main commissary, where anything extra, that's where it's at. So.
I mean, you ever call the fish guy and ask him to meet you in St. Helena
Sure.
and give you a couple more pounds of
you
sea
bet.
bass?
Yeah, that's happened actually.
You're kind of running by, so give me some more arugula. Right, you pull it out.
Actually, the fish thing has happened to us, where our numbers go up, and we're a fresh restaurant, and so when we would be moving, and our numbers, we get to the station, and by the time we leave the commissary, it's all over with. So yeah, you get the cell phone out, call the fish guy, and he meets us up valley, and we have fresh fish for everybody. So yeah,
that's unbelievable. Now we love trains. Now, I'd love to cook in the train. Can we do that one day?
yeah, you bet. And come cook on this train anytime you want.
I'd be honored. I would absolutely be honored.
Wonderful.
Now, rice salads are one of those dishes that have just been blown out of proportion, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Because we don't start with rice right off the bat. That's fantastic. Now, you would think you make pasta. We know to have great pasta, You have bread, you know to have great bread. We make rice salad out of bad rice. You can never, ever make great rice salad from bad rice, right? So what we're going to use is some brown arborio rice, okay? Takes about an hour and a half to make a risotto from because it's brown rice, but it boils up really nicely if you cook it like wild rice, and it's fantastic. All we've done, we have some salted, boiling water that we put the brown rice into, and it's cooked for about 15 or 20 minutes. We're gonna give these a quick drain. Down she goes. Now what's important about this is we want the rice to stop cooking, so we're gonna turn it out onto a cookie sheet to cool. Okay, so we have brown rice. Now it's springtime, Primavera. Think about it. Whatever you have around, you should be using. Now's a good time to use fava beans. Now, as an Italian, fava's like, I don't know, it's like saffron or porcini. Fava beans are the beans of all beans. We wait all spring. Now, the French wait for English peas, these little guys here. We like peas fine, but fava are incredible. Now, you need to cook a fava for a second. We have some salted water, because you do not eat the shell. We peel them, they just boil for a second. Now you can eat them from raw if you peel the skins off. They take a little bit more time to get off. But raw fava beans in Calabria, where my family's from, pecorino cheese, fresh pecorino, just dark green olive oil, a little gray salt, black pepper, bruschetta, unbelievable. So the fava beans go right out into a cookie sheet to cool off. We have some asparagus. Put the asparagus in first. They're going to be in there for a second. A few seconds later, the English peas go in. It's going to simmer for 2 minutes, then we're going to take them out just like the fava beans and lay them out to cool. So those just cool off on their own. What we're going to do is make a little dressing from this. Instead of shallots, I'm going to take a spring onion. This is just a really young onion, right before it's really made its outside skin and done all that. And we're going to shave these up. I use it like an ingredient. I mean, if I was using shallots, I'd use 1/3 this much. But in they go. Some lemon juice. Lemon juice itself does not have enough flavor for me. I have to have the zest be part of my whole gig here. It's the oils in the skin that really is the true lemon flavor to me. So the lemon juice goes in with the spring onion. I'm going to add some salt to this first. That way it will actually dissolve. Otherwise it has a hard time dissolving if it's just with the oil. So that mixes up for a second. Now, any vinaigrette that we make, I've been saying this every day, every time we do a show, it's a ratio, it's not a recipe, it's a ratio, it's not a recipe, it's a ratio. What a ratio means is you have 1 part of acid, any acid that you want, and 4 or 5 parts oil, any oil that you want. So here we have, you know, a couple, 2.5, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. So I need 10, 12, 13 tablespoons of olive oil. Fresh ground black pepper. All vinaigrettes like to be made ahead a little bit so they get a chance to develop their flavor. Perfect. Okay, now all the vegetables go in the bowl. When I'm doing salads like this, I'm really a 50-50 guy. Meaning I like 50% rice and 50% vegetables. I really want to see and taste the vegetables. Here we have some fava beans, great for little hands. Both the peas and the fava beans are fantastic ways to get your children involved in the kitchen. You know, and I guarantee you, if somebody peels a fava bean for an hour or so, when it comes time to eat it, they'll actually put it in their mouth and try it, which is great. Now we're going to take a chiffonata basil and some Italian parsley. Okay, basil goes in, Italian parsley chopped. We have some prosciutto cotto, boiled ham. Boiled ham's a big Italian ingredient. We just never see it here. So the ham goes in. The rice on top of that. Now, if you're doing this ahead, do not put the dressing on ahead of time. You're going to end up, I say burning, not really burning the herbs, but the lemon juice will turn the herbs kind of sideways. So you can have them done right up to here. There's nothing that's going to make this go bad. So you do this an hour or two ahead. You can see that it's 50-50. It's maybe even more vegetables and other ingredients than it is rice. All of the dressing goes in. One of the other problems people have with rice salads, they don't dress them enough. They're going to continue to soak up whatever liquid we have in. Black pepper. Pinch of salt. And let's see how we're doing. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit of, this is some Sardinian pecorino. Go around the cheese shops now. You see some great cheeses. It doesn't always have to be Parmesan or cheddar or one of those. You can find some of these artisanal cheeses, these little raw milk cheeses. Fantastic flavor and aroma. So a little bit's going to go in. And turn the whole thing out. A little grate of the Sardinian pecorino on top. I don't know about you guys, but that is downtown. Look at that. Incredible. So we had a rice day today. How great was that? We learned a lot about rice. We learned the relationship between a train and a rice. And what was that? Just to relax a little bit. To cook rice is to have a meditation with yourself, to actually be involved in the process, the experience, whether it's the spoon that's in your hand, the pot that you're using, the stories that you're telling, the wine that you're drinking while you're cooking the rice, whatever it is, think about it a little bit, okay? Just think about it and add some experience to the process, not to be stressed out over cooking risotto for sure. So do me a favor. Don't be afraid of rice. I think as Americans, we're afraid of rice, right? Embrace the whole rice concept. Promise yourself this. Add rice to the 7 dishes that you cook every single week, and in no time you're going to be a rice fan just like me. You know, as Americani, we don't even think about dessert wine. Well, we do sometimes when we're trying to imitate our French friends, and we'll give the ho-ho, give the bottle of Chateau Yquem. too sweet. Wrong for dessert more often than not. Chateau Yquem is a fantastic world-class wine, better for a cheese course for me. For something like this arborio rice pudding with some fresh fruit, I'm looking for a wine to match the fruitiness. Moscato is one of my favorites. Not only is it a fantastically fruity and fragrant wine, it's a little lower in alcohol, so by the time you get to the end of the night, you don't have to worry about having some testa di nebbia, a foggy head in the morning. Salud.
Sun-kissed, fresh citrus taste, cooking with sun-kissed throughout the day. Sun-kissed, our promise, your inspiration.
By Sultan. Innovative products for a healthy today and tomorrow. Bringing you the family of George Foreman's lean, mean, fat-reducing grilling machine. Sultan, the secret to indoor grilling.